Piece control is the most important mechanic in Fortnite, and without it you will always fall behind. That's why I'm going to try and master piece control in just 24 hours. But first, what is piece control? Piece control is the art of using Fortnite's build pieces to manipulate your opponent's movement, in a way that allows you to end fights as quickly and as safely as possible. Yeah, I definitely need to work on that safe part, but before learning some flashy piece control moves, you need to master the fundamentals first. Surprisingly, the key to good piece control isn't actually the build moves themselves, it's your ability to track your opponent in a fight. Recognizing where your opponent is about to move dictates which build moves you should use in each situation. But first, there's one setting that you absolutely need to have on: visualize sound effects. This setting lets you see footsteps on your screen from up to 30 meters away, super helpful for tracking where your opponent is moving, even if you have no actual audio. Almost every fight will switch between two different situations: build fighting and box fighting. So across the next 24 hours, I'll be focusing on these two areas, with the ultimate goal of 1v1ing my friend Asterix at the end of the challenge. Asterix has also just switched to a god PC after being this good on an Xbox, so yeah, this isn't gonna be easy. Box fights are a great place to start, since tracking your opponent is way easier when they're inside a box. Here's something most players don't realise: where your opponent moves depends heavily on where you position yourself. Most players will instinctively run towards any open space, usually the spot that's furthest away from where you are, as they try to escape their box and create as much distance as possible. But if you know this, you can use it against them. Every time you push a box, you should always be sitting on a right hand peak. Because of this, it's extremely unlikely that your opponent will run out the front or left sides, since that would give you an easy shot. This means that as soon as you notice the other player starts moving, covering the right or back sides of the box is a perfect way to get edits above them. But not everyone plays the same way, so watching your opponent's movement is crucial. Even if moving in a certain direction would be stupid, they may do that anyway. In a build fight, both players are usually going up and towards each other, which actually makes predicting your opponent's movement easier than you'd think. By watching which build moves they're using and where they're going, it's pretty simple to place a cone or double edit over their head for a clean shot, and in most other situations, they'll pause for a second forming some kind of box, which just resets the fight into another box fight situation until one of you starts going up or down again. Before I start learning new piece control moves, I need to make sure my predictions are as sharp as possible. To do that, I jumped into public 1v1 build fights and realistics, since they're perfect for simulating realistic box fights and build fights. My main goal was to focus on mastering my use of cones, double edits and simple boxes. If you don't already know how to do these things, I highly recommend using Jiven's piece control map. He's got great tutorials for learning the absolute basics, but since I already know how to do all of these, there wasn't much point in practicing them again. After about an hour of build fights where I was actually thinking about my opponent's movement instead of just mindlessly going for clips, I was already starting to see improvements. I was pulling off some super clean cones and even full boxing your average gold players here and there. This even continued into realistics, and I actually felt like I was playing well. But despite this, there were some major flaws in my gameplay. I had almost no variety in my moves, making me super predictable. And whenever I pulled off one of these moves, I was taking way too much unnecessary damage from bad peaks. Something had to change. That's when I decided to spend hours researching the best piece control moves in Fortnite, studying pro players and watching every single tutorial I could find. And I also found out that Destiny's Jesus Solo Masterclass has just been updated. This is a must-have for anyone looking to maximise their solo earnings this season, especially with all of this information coming directly from pros. You can use code SHADOW for 20% off anything site-wide, so click the link in the description to start improving today. To start, I focused on expanding on some of the fundamentals, and one of the most versatile build pieces in the game, the cone. It has the longest placement range of any build and can even be placed through walls, making it insanely useful in fights. One trick I found super helpful was the extended cone, where you place a cone above your head and edit it while holding your build bind down. I started using this in my 1v1 starts since it's perfect for blocking off your opponent while also covering off the two sides next to them. There's also a sneaky way to place a cone over someone's wall. If you look at this exact angle, you can place a cone over the top of the wall, and since their view is blocked, they usually don't see this coming. Similarly, if someone is ramping over you, just aim for the top half of their ramp and you can place a cone through the ramp, blocking them off from below. Pair that with some walls to box them in, and you've just full boxed them without them even seeing you. Another fundamental that has a ton of variations is the double edit. Once you have a floor and cone over your opponent's head, there are so many ways you can play it. Now most people just simply do a double edit and shoot, however this usually leads straight to a 50-50, which can easily get you killed. Instead, try these. Place a wall in front of the floor and cone, then you can edit a window for a right hand peek. If you quickly edit and reset the floor, this then gives you a free one pump while they wait for the shotgun delay to finish. You can also box them in with extra walls so they can't run out, then combining this with one of the first two moves to avoid risky trades. One of my favourite ways to play a double edit is to turn it into a triple edit down. By placing a ramp and then editing it, your opponent can't build anything to block you, meaning you get a free shot every single time. You can also do this with a cone, which players like FNCS winner Flixie use all the time, especially when they know their opponent is weak and want to end the fight quickly. Now, one of the biggest things that helps with predicting movement is actually forcing your opponent to move in a certain direction. And the best way to do that, get a cone or stair into their box. If you hold your stair bind after breaking an opponent's wall, you can get a stair into their box even if you weren't able to take their wall. Since this blocks in front of them, they'll instinctively run out of the back of the box. This means that you can pre-piece where they're going to escape by quickly going over the top of the box. A similar trick works when you're below your opponent. If you look at this angle, you can actually place a cone inside their box through the wall. If they get trapped in the cone, they'll almost always drop out of the bottom of the box, so you can pre-piece underneath them. And if they don't get caught in the cone, it still forces them to leave the box. Similarly, you can force movement by using an edited cone. This works just like the ramp trick, except you don't have to break any walls, which makes it faster and safer. Now that I had expanded on the basics, it was time to learn some cool piece control moves. First was this Martel's Peak variation, which lets you box an opponent before doing a normal Martel's Peak. Then the Aiden retake, I've always called it this because Aiden used to use it all the time, but regardless it's still a great way of full boxing someone that's the layer above you. You can also do a double variation that catches someone under a ramp on one of the sides, but this can be a lot harder to pull off. Then a high wall. Every copy paste tips channel loves to talk about this, but it's actually super useful for getting a wall on the layer above your opponent. Now all of these moves are great, but if you want to use them to their full potential, you need to master peeking as well. There are a ridiculous amount of different peeks in Fortnite, from using desync for free shots to weird box positioning that gives you an angle without even being seen. I actually covered a bunch of these in a previous video, and Slyjack has a really good breakdown if you want to check that out. But for piece control, the number one thing to remember is always positioning yourself to the left before taking any shots. As long as you create a right hand peek, you'll take way less damage in fights. Once I felt comfortable doing these moves in free builds, it was time to test them out in real fights. But before jumping in, I needed to make sure my positioning was perfect, so I hopped into Raiders Mechanics Training V5 to lock everything in. This map has an amazing piece control section where you can turn on peak training. Every time you're visible to the bot, you take damage, which means you're forced to position correctly every single time, making this some super valuable practice. After around 30 minutes of grinding through the map, I was ready to put these moves to the test. I started by hopping into some more public 1v1s, focusing on executing as many of these moves as possible. Since the players in here aren't the best, it gave me more time to think about which moves to use, which would help me with my muscle memory when I moved on to better opponents. And for that I used the Noble Scrims looking for group section to find some better competition. This would be super helpful for my 1v1 against Asterix, as they would at least be a similar skill level to what he is. I started off with realistics and oh my god was I moving. Then I moved on to some 1v1 build fights, since this would be the best practice for my upcoming 1v1 against Asterix, and honestly I was doing way better than I expected. Usually in these 1v1s I get absolutely destroyed, but with these new piece control moves and a smarter playstyle, I could actually hold my own. But after grinding as much as possible for the entire day, it was finally time. Would these piece control moves actually make a difference, or would I still get completely destroyed by Asterix? Although the first round ended relatively quickly with Asterix going down 50-50, coming on to round 2 it was obvious that Asterix wasn't going to make this easy.
Oh, what a shot.
And with me taking some really bad peaks in round 3 and 4, it wasn't looking good coming into the second half of the 1v1. Could I lock in and actually use the piece control I'd spent so long practicing, or would I continue to struggle against Asterix's unpredictable playstyle?
I'm trying my hardest not to let it get max height.
Oh, bro.
Don't matter, but you just hit me 185! Oh no, what? You edit there?
Oh, I've just completely sold. No! Oh, what is my aim?
I've sold.
Huh?
Oh! I win! No!
Woohoo!
Scan.
Oh. Let's go.
No!
There you have it, I finally beat someone in one of these videos, ending it at 6-4.
Go 10.
Go 10? Go 10. Okay. Oh, you're...
Oh, yeah.
Yep, I think it's safe to say that practicing your piece control helps a lot. We even went on to play some realistics afterwards for fun, which I also won 12-10, so this practice definitely made a huge difference. If you enjoyed, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.